Two judges had a 116, 112. George Kambosos was trying to outbox Devin Haney, and it just didn't work. Now, he did acknowledge that he had to go come up with a different game plan, but Devin Haney's just going to get better. And as I was saying earlier, this is who Devin Haney is. He's always been this fighter. So as far as George Kambosos is concerned, listen, he's just going to take another L. And how did he beat Teofimo Lopez? Hey, it is what it is. It wasn't 55,000 in there. Really? Are you just posting stuff? Let me see what Big J's doing. We're going to listen to him. He was at the fight, by the way. So shout out to him. He's been covering the whole fight week, taking a billion pictures. Let's see what he has to say about the fight. Straight from Australia. By the way, take your time out. Like the video. Subscribe. So what's going on, man? What you think about the fight? Well, what's going on now? Are you on the way out of there?
Yeah, mate, I'm on the train heading back to me home, back to Geelong. So, yeah, everything's cleared out, mate. Yeah, it wasn't a good fight overall. I mean, even though Devin used the jab, it wasn't a very exciting fight. So, it was a typical Devin Haney fight. Low-key, lackluster, and he used the jab, and he outskilled his opponent with no real finesse. So, he did enough to win. Like, he completely neutralised George, but bar that, it wasn't really that great of a fight. So, unfortunately for us,
what's your thought on the rematch?
There's a lot of disappointers. Oh, well, the rematch has got to happen. George has got to completely change his game to, do what he did against Lopez, and he'll be right. But, yeah, I dare say the talk was at the post-fight press conference that George would be crazy not to invoke the rematch because, as you said, there's too many belts on the line. There's too much on the line not to do it, because if he doesn't do it, he goes all the way back to the end of the line. But if Devin moves up, then George will probably face probably Lomachenko or Tank. So I forgot to mention Tank. No one actually mentioned Tank at the post-fight press conference. Nobody, which I found surprising. But 90% of the questions were, how do you feel, and what about the rematch? That was pretty much the nuts and guts of the post-fight press conference, both of them. So separate ones, one for George, one for Devin.
So what do people feel? I'm guessing, the crowd looked pretty deflated. I'm going to say from around 6 on. It seemed really quiet in there compared to what it was earlier in the fight, earlier in the night.
It was. The crowd was really deflated. There were only glimpses when the crowd actually got there, and there was about 41,000. It wasn't a sellout. Don't by any stretch state it was a sellout. It wasn't. I think it was about 41,000 there, which is still a bloody decent crowd.
Yeah.
But compared to Paul and Pacquiao, it didn't even come close. So for crowd-wise, but still, bar the main event, the undercard was brilliant. How good was Lucas Bryan? Well, I told you something was going to happen.
Yeah,
we were both.
we had already knew somebody was going to get knocked out, but the feel from the people you've interacted with at the post-fight press conference, do people do you feel, and did you get the sense from others that Kambosos can make any adjustments in the rematch?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So y'all okay, well, let me get to the nitty-gritty then. Do you feel that Kambosos can beat Devin Haney in a rematch?
Yeah, because all he had to do was because he was so, like you said before, he was punch shy. He didn't go after him. If you go after Devin, I reckon he'll slaughter him. He didn't go after him. He sat back and waited. He was just trying to draw him into the trap and counter him. That's what he was trying to do the entire fight. We're like, what is George doing? We're all sitting there looking at each other going, what is he doing? Just get in there and punch his idiot. So, but he just kept eating those jabs, and that's all Haney had. He had a jab all night. He didn't have any combos or anything else. All he did was just jab him. Boxing 101 was just jab, 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 and George just kept eating them. So George didn't.
So the fact that
George didn't use his jab either.
So the fact that Devin Haney defeated George Kambosos with just a jab, you feel that he can beat Devin Haney in a rematch?
Yeah, well, it was because he had an off night. It happens in boxing. He's like, he got completely neutralized because he didn't it's like you said, his game plan was completely wrong. If he did exactly what he did against Tio, he'll be fine. But then he's got to prove it. So it's like, I mean, I want to see the rematch because I think George deserves another crack at it. It's as simple as that. So, I mean, how many times have, Box has been knocked out, come back and won the rematch? It's happened plenty of times. Box has been defeated and they come back and win. So that happens plenty of times. I mean, George needs to completely change his game plan and go back to being tenacious and ferocious, being basically what he did to get him at the top in the first place. That's what he needs to do. So, because bar that jab, Haney didn't have much going for him. So, but he was smart. I mean, he didn't throw any combos, no big punches. So yeah. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, listen, I'm going to be very honest. He's going to get his face jabbed off again in the rematch. I don't want to see the rematch. Fans don't want to see the rematch. We did a poll here. We got 76% saying no.
And how many of them were Australians?
Yeah, well, we'll see, but at the same time, no disrespect to the Australians. Y'all put Paul Gallen on your pay-per-views and Tim Zhu. So you guys over there, y'all watch anything. And it looks like you don't pay for anything as well. But
that is perfectly true. That is perfectly true.
Yeah,
I mean, we needed George to win this. Yeah, we needed George to win this to cement. We actually got a proper boxer on top. So, but anyway, it is what it is, and I hate using that term of phrase, but I want to see the rematch to see if George can actually change it up.
So where does the rematch happen? Because obviously they can't do a stadium no more. The buzz is not going to be there.
They're talking about, if they don't do it I think they'll probably do it in Melbourne again, and there's High Sense Arena, which holds about 10 to 15,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about Brisbane, Sydney, or obviously Melbourne. So, in November, if they do it in November, remember, football season's over. So there's no competition from football season, which means people will go to it just for the sake of it. Because remember, they had an AFL game across the road in Richmond, which is only 5 Ks down the road, and 60,000 people went to that.
Yeah.
So with no competition and another big fight with the Australian fighting, lots of people are going to go to it. Especially if they do it in another state. They do it in Queensland, they'll just pack the place out. So, because as you said 5 minutes ago, we'll watch anything. So,
and that's just fucked up. But hey, I'm gonna let you go because we got to listen to Devin Haney at the post-fight press conference. And thank you for everything you've done. Shout out to Main Event. Shout out to Top Rank. Shout out to Duco. Closing thoughts before you go.
Disappointing day for George, but he'll bounce back, and if he can, this will be his real testament. If he can bounce back and win, that's a sign of a true champion. Because the last thing I want him to be is a one-hit wonder. So, he's got to prove in the ring. But besides that, the undercard was great. Well, your thoughts on the undercard? I thought it was great undercard.
I mean, the undercard here. Well, for one, I didn't get a chance to see the undercard because Top Rank only showed 2 fights. ESPN here only showed 2 fights, and basically it was a bunch of filler. So as far as Lucas Brown, that was impressive. And as far as Jason Maloney, knocking out Aston Palicte, that was also, impressive. But I haven't seen anything, else. So, I will get a chance to check out. Go ahead.
Andrew Maloney won via TKO. I'm not quite sure what round, but he won via TKO. Mm-hmm. So both the Maloney twins got up by a knockout.
Okay.
So,
well, all right, Big J, I gotta let you go because we're running short on time. I'll catch up with you later on. I don't want to see that motherfucking rematch again. I mean, hey, listen, everyone's entitled to their own opinions. Doesn't mean we always have to agree. So listen, and he already told you, Australians, they'll watch anything. So if they're clamoring at the bit to see George Kambosos get his face jabbed off again, maybe even worse, then more power to them. If they want to throw their money away. But here's the thing. I would love to see Devin Haney versus a Lomachenko, a Devin Haney versus a Shakur Stevenson. But those are fights that can happen in-house, politically because he's the top ring fighter. But if he vacates those belts, then he goes up to 140. Maybe Teofimo, maybe Josh Taylor. But something's telling me in my gut that this rematch is going to happen and Devin Haney is not going to vacate because they want to try to make him versus Lomachenko on pay-per-view. But yes, I don't agree with Big J. I'm sorry. I don't agree. Just saying that. He's my homie, my friend, but, my colleague, but I don't agree with him.